Jake Morrison stood in the grand hall and tried not to look nervous. The ceiling stretched so high above him that he could barely see it. Crystal pillars rose from the floor like frozen waterfalls glowing with soft blue light. Hundreds of alien beings filled the massive room, their voices creating a strange mix of sounds that hurt his ears. He was the only human there. Earth had joined the Galactic Assembly just 6 months ago. Jake was 28 years old, a diplomat who spoke 5 Earth languages and had studied alien cultures for 3 years. But nothing prepared him for this moment. He wore his best suit, dark blue with the Earth insignia on his chest. Compared to the elaborate robes and armor around him, he felt plain and small. The ceremony was starting. Jake watched as different species presented gifts to the Zerathian Emperor, a tall being made of what looked like living crystal. Each gift was more impressive than the last. Weapons that could destroy planets, art that moved on its own, technology that bent space and time. When Jake's turn came, he walked forward with Earth's gift, a simple golden disc containing all of human history, art, and music. His hands shook slightly as he held it up. "Your Majesty," Jake said clearly, "Earth offers its story as a gift. We hope to learn from you as you learn from us." The Emperor took the disc and examined it. For a moment, Jake thought he saw interest in those strange crystalline eyes, but then laughter erupted from somewhere to his right. "A disc of stories?" a female voice called out. "How quaint. The primitives think we want their cave paintings." More laughter followed. Jake's face burned red. He turned and saw 3 figures standing on a raised platform. They were clearly important based on their positions and the way others moved aside for them. The first was Princess Lyra of the Zerathian Empire. Her skin shimmered like polished silver, and her eyes had no pupils, just swirling pools of violet light. She was tall and thin, wearing a flowing dress that seemed to be made of liquid metal. When she looked at Jake, he felt a strange pressure in his head, like someone trying to open a locked door in his mind. "I can sense his thoughts," Lyra said with a slight smile. So simple, so limited, like reading a children's book written with only 10 words. The second princess stepped forward. Princess Kale of the Dravokian clans was shorter, but far more intimidating. She had 4 arms, each thick with muscle. Red scales covered her body, and 2 curved horns rose from her head. She wore armor made of black metal that seemed to absorb light. A massive sword hung at her side. "Humans," Kale snorted, crossing all 4 arms. "Your entire military could not defeat one of our warrior squads. You wage wars with metal bullets and explosives. My people have crushed stars and broken moons. You are insects pretending to be eagles." Jake clenched his fists but said nothing. Respond with anger and he would prove them right. Stay silent and they would think he was weak. There was no winning move here. The third princess moved like flowing water. Princess Mira of the Nexari Collective had skin that changed colors constantly, shifting through blues and greens and purples. Patterns of light ran across her body like circuits. She had large eyes that seemed to see everything at once. Her clothing was made of pure energy, barely solid. "Their technology is amusing," Mira said in a voice that sounded like chiming bells. "They just learned to travel between stars using crude engines that tear holes in space. They still use physical computers, physical bodies without any enhancement. They will be obsolete within a century, assuming they survive their own barbarism." The hall had gone quiet. Every being there watched to see what would happen. Some looked uncomfortable. Others seemed entertained. The Emperor said nothing, simply observing with those unreadable eyes. Jake took a deep breath. He could walk away. He could let the insults slide. That would be the diplomatic thing to do. But something in him rebelled. Not anger exactly. Something deeper. Pride in his species, in what humans had accomplished despite all their flaws. "Your Highnesses," Jake said, keeping his voice level, "I apologize if our gifts seem small to you. We are young compared to your civilizations. We make mistakes. We fight among ourselves. We destroy our own environments and struggle to fix what we break." He paused, meeting each of their eyes in turn. "But we survive. We adapt. We climb back up every time we fall. There is an old saying on Earth: pride comes before a fall. Those who mock others often forget their own weaknesses." Jake did not know what made him say the last words. They came from somewhere deep in his memory, something his grandmother had taught him as a child. Ancient words in a language he barely remembered learning. They felt right in his mouth, powerful and clear. "Koresh Velmora, Takesh Vel Norath, The words meant something like honor given is honor bound, dishonor shown is dishonor earned. Or at least that was what his grandmother had told him. She said they came from very old Earth texts, from before recorded history. The moment the words left his mouth, everything changed. Light exploded from Jake's chest, so bright that everyone in the hall threw up their hands or appendages to shield their eyes. He felt something surge through him, like electricity but not painful. It was old and powerful and completely beyond his control. The light shot out in 3 directions, 3 beams of pure white energy. They struck each of the princesses in the chest and they cried out in shock and pain. The beams wrapped around them like chains, glowing symbols appearing in the air between them and Jake. Jake tried to move but could not. The energy held him frozen. He watched in horror as the chains of light connected him to Lyra, Kale and Mira. The symbols spun faster and faster, getting brighter and brighter until finally they flashed once more and then faded. The light vanished. Jake stumbled forward, gasping for air. The 3 princesses stood on their platform, staring down at their chests where the light had struck them. Glowing marks remained on their skin, pulsing with a soft rhythm like a heartbeat. "What did you do?" Lyra whispered, her voice filled with shock. I don't know," Jake said honestly. "I just spoke some old words. I didn't mean to—" "Silence!" A new voice boomed through the hall. An ancient creature shuffled forward, so old that its species was unrecognizable. It walked with a staff and its body was covered in robes. "I know what has happened. I recognize the signs." The Emperor leaned forward. "Speak, Elder Zor." "The human has invoked the right of Koresh," the old being said. "An ancient law older than any empire here, older than the assembly itself. It binds those who show dishonor to the one they wronged." The princesses stared at the marks on their skin. Around them, the crowd erupted in shocked whispers and gasps. "The 3 princesses are now bound to this human," Elder Zor continued. "They must serve him until their honor is restored. They cannot stray far from him. They cannot harm him. They must protect him from danger. This binding cannot be broken by force or technology. Only through genuine service and his willing release can they be free." Lyra's face had gone pale silver. Kale's scales seemed to darken with rage. Mira's colors flickered wildly, showing her panic. Jake felt the blood drain from his face. What had he done? The hall erupted into chaos. Alien voices rose in dozens of languages, creating a wall of sound. Some beings rushed toward the platform. Others backed away as if afraid. Guards in golden armor moved to surround the Emperor, their weapons suddenly appearing in their hands. Jake stood frozen in place. The glowing mark on his chest had faded, but he could still feel it there, warm under his shirt. It pulsed with a strange rhythm, and somehow he knew the 3 princesses felt the same thing. He could sense them like 3 distant lights at the edge of his awareness. "This is impossible," Princess Kale snarled. She reached for her sword, but the moment her hand touched the handle, blue lightning crackled across her arm. She jerked back with a hiss of pain. "I cannot even draw my weapon against him." "The binding prevents all harm," Elder Zor said calmly. He moved closer, examining the princesses with ancient eyes. "Direct or indirect, you cannot hurt him with actions or inaction. If he is in danger, you will feel compelled to protect him. If he calls, you must answer." Princess Mira's colors shifted rapidly through reds and blacks, signs of distress in her species. There must be a way to break it. Our technology can manipulate quantum states, rewrite genetic codes, even reverse time on small scales. Surely we can remove a simple magical binding. "Magic and science are not so different," Elder Zor replied. "Both follow laws. The right of Koresh is woven into the fabric of reality itself. It predates your technology by millions of years. You could no more break it than you could unmake a star with your bare hands." Princess Lyra had been silent, her strange eyes fixed on Jake. He felt that pressure in his mind again. Stronger now. She was trying to read his thoughts, but something blocked her like a wall she could not cross. "I cannot enter his mind," she said quietly. "The binding protects him even from my telepathy. I can sense his emotions, but not his thoughts. He is afraid, confused, and genuinely sorry." "I am sorry," Jake said quickly. "I didn't know those words would do this." "I was just defending your species," the Emperor interrupted. His voice was like crystal chimes, beautiful but cold, an admirable quality. "But the consequences remain." The Emperor rose from his throne. The room fell silent instantly. Every being there showed respect in their own way, bowing, kneeling, or simply going still. This situation affects 3 of the most powerful empires in the assembly, the Emperor said. Princess Lyra is heir to my throne. Princess Kale commands the Dravokian fleet. Princess Mira leads the Nexari Research Council. All 3 are now bound to a human diplomat. He turned his gaze to Jake. Those crystal eyes seemed to look through him, seeing everything. Some will see this as an opportunity, others as a threat. Earth is new to galactic politics. There are many who would use this situation to their advantage or to harm your world. Jake's throat felt dry. What do you mean? He means, a new voice called out, that you have just become the most valuable and most dangerous person in the galaxy. A tall alien stepped forward from the crowd. He looked almost human except for his blue skin and 3 fingers on each hand. He wore expensive robes and had calculating eyes. Ambassador Kell of the Vraxian Union, the Emperor said with clear displeasure. You were not invited to speak. Forgive me, Your Majesty, Kell said with a bow that seemed mocking. But we must address the reality of this situation. 3 princesses bound to 1 human. What happens if this human commands them to betray their empires? What happens if he orders them to steal secrets or start wars? I would never, Jake began. You say that now, Kell interrupted. But power corrupts. Today you are sorry. Tomorrow you might see opportunities. And even if you remain noble, what about your government? Earth could use these princesses as hostages to demand anything they want. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Jake saw suspicion growing on alien faces. His mind raced, trying to think of something to say, some way to fix this disaster. The human speaks truth, Princess Lyra said suddenly. I can sense his emotions clearly. He does not want this power. He would release us right now if he could. His fear is not for himself, but for what this means for all of us. Pretty words, Kell said. But emotions change. Intentions shift. Enough! The Emperor's voice cracked like breaking ice. Elder Zor explained the full nature of this binding. Let all here understand what has truly occurred. The old being nodded and raised his staff. Holographic images appeared in the air above them, showing ancient symbols and diagrams. The Rite of Koresh was created long ago by the precursors, the first civilization to travel the stars. Elder Zor began. They believed honor was the foundation of all society. When someone committed a grave dishonor, especially those in power, they could be bound to their victim until they proved their worth through service. The images showed ancient beings performing ceremonies, light flowing between them just as it had between Jake and the princesses. The binding has specific rules. Elder Zor continued. First, the bound cannot harm the binder in any way. Second, they must remain within 1,000 of your distance measurements from the binder at all times. Third, they must answer when called and protect when threatened. Fourth, they must serve with genuine effort, not mere obedience. And how is this binding broken? Princess Kale demanded. Through 3 conditions, Elder Zor said. First, the bound must perform genuine acts of service that restore their honor. Second, they must earn the respect and forgiveness of the one they wronged. Third, the binder must willingly release them with clear intent and open heart. All 3 conditions must be met. Princess Mira made a sound of frustration. How long does this typically take? That depends on the individuals involved, Elder Zor said. Some bindings last days, others last years. A few throughout history have lasted lifetimes. The 3 princesses looked at each other with horror. Jake felt sick to his stomach. There is one more important detail, Elder Zor added. The binding creates a connection between all involved. They will share certain experiences. Strong emotions will echo between them. In times of great danger or stress, they may even share thoughts and sensations. They are not one being, but they are no longer completely separate either. Jake suddenly understood why he could sense the princesses at the edge of his awareness, and why they would know if he was in danger. They were connected now, whether any of them wanted it or not. This is a disaster, Princess Kale said flatly. My people will see this as weakness. I will lose my command. My clan will cast me out. The Nexari collective values logic and efficiency above all, Princess Mira added, her colors now a dull gray. Being bound by ancient magic is neither logical nor efficient. I will be seen as compromised, possibly defective. Princess Lyra said nothing, but Jake felt waves of despair coming from her through their connection. For a telepath, being bound to someone else must be like being imprisoned. What do you want me to do? Jake asked desperately. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. You cannot simply release them, Elder Zor said gently. Not yet. The binding must run its course. They must restore their honor through service. You must come to truly forgive them. These things cannot be forced or rushed. The Emperor stepped down from his throne and approached Jake directly. Every guard in the room tensed, but the Emperor waved them back. You have inadvertently changed the balance of power in this assembly, the Emperor said. Many will try to use you. Others will try to kill you. A few might try to help you, but their help will come with prices you may not wish to pay. He turned to include the three princesses in his gaze. All of you must leave this place. Together. If you remain, you will become pawns in games far more dangerous than any of you understand. Go somewhere safe. Learn to work together, protect each other, and perhaps if you are fortunate, you will find a way to break this binding that benefits all involved. Where can we go? Jake asked. I'm just a diplomat. I have a small ship with a crew of 12. Then that will have to be enough, the Emperor said. He reached out and placed one crystalline hand on Jake's shoulder. You spoke truth when you said humans survive and adapt. You will need those qualities now. All of you will. The Emperor returned to his throne and made a gesture. The ceremony was over. Guards began moving people toward the exits. Ambassadors and nobles shot dark looks at Jake and the princesses as they left. Jake stood there watching the hall empty, feeling the weight of 3 bound princesses and the attention of half the galaxy pressing down on him. His simple diplomatic mission had just become something far more complicated and dangerous, and he had no idea what to do next. The shuttle ride back to the Horizon Runner was silent and tense. Jake sat in the front with the pilot, avoiding eye contact with the 3 princesses strapped into seats behind him. He could feel their emotions through the binding, anger from Kale, cold calculation from Mira, and a sort of numb despair from Lyra. The Horizon Runner was a small diplomatic vessel, designed to carry a crew of 12 and perhaps a few guests. It was nothing compared to the massive warships and luxury cruisers that filled the orbital space around the Zyrathian homeworld. But it was home, and right now Jake desperately wanted to be somewhere familiar. Captain Lisa Hayes met him at the airlock. She was 40 years old, tough and practical, with short gray hair and sharp green eyes. She had served in Earth's Navy before joining the diplomatic corps. Jake had always felt safe with her in command. Her expression when she saw the 3 princesses behind him was somewhere between shock and anger. Morrison, she said carefully, want to explain why you brought 3 alien princesses onto my ship? It's complicated, Jake said. I'm getting reports that half the galaxy is losing their minds over some kind of ancient binding ritual, Lisa said, and that you're somehow at the center of it. So yes, I assumed it was complicated. Jake spent the next 20 minutes explaining everything while the crew prepared the ship for departure. Lisa listened without interrupting, her face giving away nothing. The 3 princesses stood nearby, uncomfortable in the small corridor. When Jake finished, Lisa was quiet for a long moment. So they have to stay close to you, she finally said. They can't hurt you, and you all need to work together until some ancient magic decides the honor debt is paid. That's the basic idea, Jake confirmed. Lisa looked at the 3 princesses, studying each one carefully. And what do you 3 want? To break this binding as quickly as possible, Princess Kale said immediately. I have duties to my people. I command a fleet of 300 warships. Every day I'm gone, my enemies at home grow stronger. I need to return to my research, Princess Mira added. The Nexari Collective is developing technology that could revolutionize energy production across the galaxy. I am the lead scientist. Without me, the project will fail. Princess Lyra stayed silent. Jake felt her emotions swirling, shame, fear, and something else he could not quite identify. And you? Lisa asked Lyra directly. I want to understand how a human knew words in the primal tongue, Lyra said quietly. That language has been dead for over 10 million years. No species alive remembers it. Yet this human spoke it perfectly, with the correct inflection and intent. That should be impossible, Jake blinked. I didn't know what language it was. My grandmother taught me those words when I was young. She said they came from old Earth texts. That raises interesting questions, Mira said, her colors shifting to curious blues and purples. But those questions can wait. Right now we need to focus on survival. The binding makes all of us targets. Agreed, Lisa said. She turned to Jake. I'm setting course for the frontier worlds. Out there, news travels slower and there are fewer spies. We can figure out our next move without half the galaxy watching our every step. The frontier is dangerous, Princess Kale said. Pirates, raiders, and criminals operate freely in those regions. Good, Lisa replied with a slight smile. We're about to become criminals ourselves, at least in some people's eyes. We might as well go where we fit in. The ship undocked and began its journey away from the Zyrathian homeworld. Jake showed the princesses to the passenger quarters, 3 small rooms designed for visiting diplomats. Princess Kale looked at her room and snorted in disgust. Princess Mira's colors shifted to disappointed browns. Even Princess Lyra seemed unimpressed. I apologize for the accommodations, Jake said. We're not set up for royalty. We will manage, Lyra said. We have no choice. Over the next several days, an uneasy routine developed. The princesses kept to their rooms most of the time. Jake tried to give them space while also fulfilling his duties aboard the ship. The crew gave the aliens a wide berth, unsure how to interact with them. But the binding made complete separation impossible. Whenever Jake moved too far away, the princesses felt an uncomfortable pulling sensation. They had to attend meals together in the small galley. They had to coordinate their schedules to remain within range. The tension built until it finally exploded during dinner on the 4th day. This food is barely edible, Princess Kale said, pushing away her plate. On my homeworld, we feast on fresh meat from creatures that could tear this ship apart. The nutrients are perfectly balanced for your biology, the ship's doctor, a patient man named Chris Lane, explained. We had to adapt our food synthesizers to accommodate your dietary needs. It's not fancy, but it will keep you healthy. I am a warrior princess, Kale said angrily. I am not meant to eat synthesized paste like some laboratory specimen. Then maybe you shouldn't have insulted the human who could give you real food, one of the crew members muttered. Kale's scales darkened to almost black. She stood up, all forearms flexing. The crew member went pale and reached for the stun gun at his belt. Stop, Jake said firmly. Everyone calm down. Your crew member insults me, Kyle growled. And you insulted my entire species in front of the Galactic Court, Jake replied. But we're past that now. We're stuck together. Fighting about food won't change anything. Kale glared at him. For a moment, Jake thought she might attack despite the binding, but then she slowly sat back down. You are right, she admitted grudgingly. Fighting wastes energy, but I am not happy about this situation. None of us are, Jake said. But we need to make it work. The alarm started blaring before anyone could respond. Red emergency lights flashed throughout the ship. Lisa's voice came over the intercom. All hands to stations. We have multiple ships closing on our position. They're flying Krell colors. Jake's blood went cold. The Krell were one of the most feared pirate factions in the galaxy. They took no prisoners and left no survivors. How many ships? Jake called out, running toward the bridge with the princesses following close behind. 5, Lisa replied as they burst onto the bridge. Frigate class. Fast and heavily armed. They're jamming our communications so we can't call for help. Through the viewport, Jake saw the Krell ships approaching. They were dark and angular, covered in spikes and weapons. They looked like predators built only for killing. They must have been waiting for us, Princess Mira said, her colors flashing warning reds. Someone told them we would be here. Can we outrun them? Jake asked. Lisa shook her head. Not with our current engines. We're a diplomatic ship, not a warship. We can maybe hold them off for a few minutes, but our weapons are defensive only. Then we will fight, Princess Kale said. She turned to Lisa. I need weapons. Give me access to your armory. We don't have an armory, Lisa said. We have a few pistols and stun guns. That's it. Kyle looked disgusted. Your species goes into space unarmed? This is why you are mocked. We believe in diplomacy, Jake said. Talking before shooting. The Krell do not believe in talking, Princess Lyra said. She was staring at the approaching ships with wide eyes. I can sense their minds from here. They want blood and treasure. They know 3 princesses are aboard this ship. They plan to take us alive and ransom us to our empires. The first Krell ship opened fire. Energy beams struck the Horizon Runner's shields, making the entire vessel shake. Sparks flew from one of the control panels. Shields down to 70%, the navigator called out. We can't take many more hits like that. Jake's mind raced. They were outgunned, outmanned, and trapped, but he had 3 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy standing right next to him, bound to protect him whether they wanted to or not. Can any of you help? He asked the princesses. Powers, abilities, anything? I am a telepath, Lyra said, but the Krell have primitive minds hard to influence, and there are too many of them. I am a warrior, Kale said. But I need to be close to my enemy to fight. I am useless on this ship. I am a scientist, Mira said. Not a soldier. Another blast hit the ship, this one stronger than the first. The lights flickered. Jake grabbed onto a railing to keep from falling. Shields at 40%, the navigator shouted. Jake looked around the bridge. The crew was scared but holding their positions. Lisa was calmly giving orders, trying to maneuver the ship to minimize damage. The three princesses stood there helpless despite all their power, and Jake realized something. They were all thinking like their roles: captain, warrior, scientist, telepath. But sometimes the best solutions came from thinking differently. Princess Mira, Jake said quickly. You said you're a scientist. Can you hack their systems? Possibly, Mira said. But I would need access to their networks, and they are not going to let us connect to their computers. What if we crash into them? Jake asked. Physically connect our ship to theirs? Lisa stared at him. That's insane. We would take massive damage. We're about to take massive damage anyway, Jake pointed out. At least this way we control when and where. He is right, Kale said, and Jake felt surprise through the binding, surprise from Kale that she was agreeing with him. If we ram one of their ships, I can board them. I will kill enough of them to make the others reconsider their attack. And I can enter their systems once we have physical contact, Mira added. I can disable their... The impact threw everyone forward against their restraints. Metal screamed as the two ships collided and locked together. Sparks showered through the bridge and alarms wailed. Jake's vision blurred for a moment, but he forced himself to focus. Hull breach in sections 3 and 4. The navigator called out. Emergency seals holding. Mira now, Jake shouted. Princess Mira pressed her hands against the ship's main console. Her skin began to glow, patterns of light racing across her body and flowing into the computer systems. Her eyes turned pure white. I am in their network, she said, her voice sounding strange and distant. Their security is primitive. I can see everything. Their weapon systems, navigation, communications. Wait, what? Lisa demanded. They are receiving instructions from someone, Mira said. Someone is guiding them, telling them exactly where to hit us, when to fire. This is not a random pirate attack. Someone hired the Krell specifically to capture us. Who? Jake asked. The signal is encrypted and routed through multiple relays, Mira said. I would need hours to trace it fully, but I can tell you the encryption patterns match Galactic Assembly protocols. Someone in the Assembly wants us captured or killed. Jake felt ice in his stomach. One of the governments in the Assembly was trying to eliminate them. But which one and why? We can worry about that later, Princess Kale said. She had grabbed 2 pistols from a storage locker and checked their charge. Right now we have Krell to kill. You mean disable? Jake said quickly. Kale looked at him like he had grown a second head. They are trying to murder us. We kill them or they kill us. If we kill them, we become murderers ourselves, Jake argued. We stun them, disable their ships, and escape. We don't add bodies to this mess. Your human mercy will get you killed, Kale growled. Maybe, Jake said. But it's who we are. And right now you're bound to protect me. So we do this my way. He could feel Kale's anger through the binding, hot and fierce. But she also felt something else, a grudging respect. She had expected him to be weak, to let her handle the violence while he hid. Instead, he was setting limits even in the middle of a battle. Fine, Kale said. We disable them. But if they threaten you directly, I will do what is necessary. Lisa handed out weapons to anyone who could use them. The crew members who had combat training formed up near the breach point where the 2 ships had connected. Jake could hear banging from the other side as the Krell tried to cut through. Mira, can you lock them out? Jake asked. I am trying, Mira said, still connected to the systems. But they are using manual cutters. Physical tools. I cannot stop those remotely, but I can do something else. The lights on the Krell ship suddenly went dark. Through the viewport, Jake saw the other 4 Krell vessels drift as their engines cut out. I shut down their power systems, Mira said with satisfaction. They are dead in space. It will take them several minutes to restart their reactors. That gives us time. Good work, Jake said. The hull plating buckled inward. Jake saw claws and cutting tools tearing through the metal. Princess Lyra moved to stand beside him, her eyes glowing brighter. Stay close, she said. I will sense danger before it reaches you. The metal finally gave way. 5 Krell warriors poured through the breach. They were massive creatures, easily 8 feet tall, with thick armor plates covering their bodies. They had too many teeth and claws that could tear through steel. Their eyes were black and empty of anything resembling mercy. The crew opened fire with stun weapons. 2 Krell went down immediately, but the others kept coming, roaring in rage. One swung a massive blade at the closest crew member. Princess Kale moved faster than Jake's eyes could follow. All 4 of her arms became a blur of motion. She deflected the blade with one pistol, shot the Krell in the knee with another, and used her remaining hands to throw the creature into its companions. All 3 Krell went down in a tangle of limbs and armor. More Krell were coming through the breach. 10, then 15, then 20. Too many for Kale to fight alone even with her incredible skills. "Jake, get back," Lisa ordered, firing her own weapon. But Jake did not move back. Instead, he moved forward. He grabbed a fallen stun pistol and started shooting. He was not a soldier. His aim was terrible and his hands shook. But he was there, fighting beside his crew instead of hiding behind them. Princess Lyra stayed at his side. Every time a Krell got close, she would gesture and the creature would stumble, confused by her telepathic interference. It only stopped them for a second or two, but that was enough for someone to hit them with a stun blast. "Behind you!" Lyra shouted suddenly. Jake spun around. A Krell had gotten past the others and was lunging straight at him, claws extended. There was no time to aim or shoot. Jake dove to the side, but he knew he was too slow. Princess Kale appeared between them like a red blur. She took the full impact of the Krell's charge, the creature's claws sinking into her shoulder. Black blood sprayed across the floor, but Kale did not scream. She grabbed the Krell with all 4 arms and head-butted it so hard Jake heard bones crack. The creature collapsed. "Kale!" Jake shouted, rushing toward her. "I am fine," she growled. But Jake could see she was not fine. The wound in her shoulder was deep and bleeding heavily. "The binding would not let me ignore the threat to you." "You saved my life," Jake said. "I had no choice," Kale replied. But through the binding, Jake felt something else. She was not unhappy about saving him. Part of her had wanted to. "Mira, we need to go," Lisa called out. "More Krell are coming and I can't restart our engines while we're attached to their ship." "Give me 1 more minute," Mira said. "I am downloading their communications records. We need to know who hired them." An explosion rocked the ship. One of the Krell had set off a charge on the hull, trying to create another entry point. The structure groaned and shifted. "We do not have a minute," Kale said. Jake looked around. They had stunned maybe 30 Krell, but he could hear more coming through the breach. Their weapons were running low on charge. Princess Kale was injured, and they were still connected to a ship full of hostile pirates. "Mira, disconnect us," Jake ordered. "Now." But the data. "Your life is worth more than data," Jake said firmly. "Disconnect us and shut down their systems completely. Make sure they cannot follow." Mira hesitated, then nodded. Her hands moved across the console faster than any human could type. The connection between the ships suddenly released with a metallic shriek. The Horizon Runner's engines roared to life and they pulled away from the Krell vessel. Through the viewport, Jake watched as all 5 Krell ships went completely dark. No lights, no engines, nothing. They floated in space like dead things. "I fried their primary systems," Mira said, finally disconnecting from the console. "It will take them weeks to repair the damage. By then we will be long gone." Lisa set course away from the area at maximum speed. Once they were safely distant, she ordered everyone to the medical bay. Jake helped Princess Kale walk there, supporting her weight despite the fact that she was much stronger than him. Chris Lane, the ship's doctor, stared at Kale's wound with wide eyes. "I don't know Dravokian biology. I might make it worse." "Then I will guide you," Kale said. She explained what needed to be done, how to close the wound and what medicines her body could tolerate. Chris worked carefully, stitching the injury while Kale sat perfectly still. She did not show any pain, but Jake could feel it through their connection. When Chris finished, Kale looked at Jake directly. "You are a fool. You should have let me kill them all. It would have been safer." "Maybe," Jake admitted, "but I meant what I said. I won't become a killer just because it's easier." "Your mercy is a weakness," Kale said, "is it?" Jake asked. "You saved my life even though the binding did not force you to take that injury yourself. You could have just pushed me out of the way, but you chose to take the hit." "That is not weakness. That is strength." Kyle was quiet for a moment. "Perhaps there are different kinds of strength." Over the next few days, the atmosphere on the ship changed. The princesses began spending more time outside their rooms. Princess Mira worked with the ship's engineer to improve their systems. Princess Lyra started teaching the crew how to resist basic telepathic intrusion. Princess Kale trained the crew in combat techniques, and Jake talked with them. Really talked. He learned about their lives, their fears, their hopes. He discovered that Princess Lyra had always been lonely because her telepathy meant no one could truly lie to her or surprise her. Princess Kale carried the weight of her clan's honor and feared she could never be strong enough. Princess Mira questioned whether her pursuit of perfect logic had cost her the ability to feel genuine emotion. They were not just powerful beings. They were people with their own struggles and pain. One evening, Jake found Princess Mira working alone in the computer lab. Her colors were dim, a sign of fatigue or sadness. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I have been analyzing the data I managed to download from the Krell ship," Mira said. "The results are disturbing." She pulled up holographic displays showing communication logs and payment records. "The Krell were hired by a group called the Syndicate," Mira explained. "I have heard of them before. They are a shadow organization that operates across multiple empires. They manipulate markets, assassinate leaders, and start conflicts for profit." "Why would they target us?" Jake asked. "That is what disturbs me." The return to the Galactic Assembly took 3 weeks of careful planning. Princess Mira spent days analyzing the data they had stolen from the Krell, tracing connections and following digital trails. What she found was worse than anyone had imagined. The Syndicate had agents in every major empire. They had been manipulating events for decades, starting small conflicts that grew into wars, assassinations blamed on rival species. Trade disputes turned violent. Peace negotiations that mysteriously failed. All of it orchestrated to keep the galaxy divided and at war with itself. "War is profitable," Mira explained to Jake and the others during a briefing. "The Syndicate sells weapons to both sides. They profit from reconstruction after conflicts. They buy up devastated worlds at low prices and sell them later. They have become rich beyond measure by keeping everyone else poor and afraid. And the binding of 3 princesses to a human threatens their plans," Princess Lyra added. "We are proof that different species can work together. That cooperation is possible even between those who start as enemies. So they will try to kill us before we can expose them," Jake said. "Yes," Princess Kale confirmed. She had fully recovered from her injury and was sharper than ever. "But they will not expect us to attack first. They believe we are running and hiding. Instead, we will bring the fight to them." Captain Lisa Hayes had sent secret messages to trusted contacts throughout the assembly. Slowly, carefully, they built a coalition of people who wanted peace more than profit. Diplomats who were tired of watching wars destroy innocent lives. Military officers who questioned their orders. Scientists who wanted their discoveries used for good instead of weapons. The plan was simple but dangerous. They would return to the Grand Galactic Assembly during the next major summit. All the leaders and ambassadors would be there. Jake and the princesses would present their evidence publicly, exposing the Syndicate before they could silence them. "They will try to stop us before we reach the assembly hall," Princess Mira warned. "They have agents everywhere." "Then we use that against them," Jake said. He had been thinking about this for days. "We spread rumors that we are coming from multiple directions. We leak false information about our arrival time. We make them guess and divide their forces." "Deception," Princess Kale said with approval. "You are learning to think like a warrior." "I am learning to think like a survivor," Jake corrected. The day of the summit arrived. The Horizon Runner dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Zerathian system. Immediately, they detected 5 ships moving to intercept them. "Syndicate vessels," Mira confirmed, scanning them. "Armed and dangerous. Can we outrun them?" Lisa asked. "No," Mira said. "But we do not need to." She pressed a control and suddenly dozens of friendly ships appeared from hiding spots throughout the system. The coalition they had built was here, ready to protect them. The Syndicate vessels found themselves surrounded and quickly retreated. Phase 1 complete, Lisa said with satisfaction. They docked at the main station and made their way toward the assembly hall. The corridors were crowded with beings from 100 different species, all gathering for the summit. Jake felt exposed and vulnerable despite the guards around them. "Stay close," Princess Lyra whispered. "I sense hostile minds nearby. Many of them." They turned a corner and found their path blocked by Ambassador Kell, the blue-skinned politician who had spoken against them at the first binding ceremony. He was flanked by a dozen heavily armed guards. "Going somewhere?" Kell asked with a cold smile. We have evidence to present to the assembly, Jake said firmly. You cannot stop us, and cannot? Kel laughed. I am a respected ambassador. You are a human bound to 3 princesses, running around the galaxy causing problems. Who do you think they will believe? They will believe the truth, Princess Lyra said. She stepped forward, her eyes glowing brightly. And I can show them the truth directly from your mind. Kel's smile faltered. You would not dare. Reading the mind of an ambassador without permission is a crime. So is treason, Princess Kale growled. She moved in front of Jake protectively. So is working with criminals to destabilize the galaxy. So is attempted murder. You have no proof, Kel said, but Jake heard the uncertainty in his voice. Actually, we do, Princess Mira said. She held up a small data device. Complete records of syndicate operations, communications logs, payment records, lists of agents throughout the assembly. Your name appears frequently, Ambassador Kel. Kel's face went through several shades of blue. Those records are forgeries. Then you should have no fear of us presenting them, Jake said. Let us pass. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Kel made a sharp gesture and his guards raised their weapons. Kill them, Kel ordered. All of them. What happened next was over in seconds. Princess Kale moved like lightning, disarming the first 3 guards before they could fire. Princess Lyra sent out a telepathic pulse that made half the guards collapse, clutching their heads. Princess Mira hacked their weapons remotely, causing them to short out in their hands, and Jake, standing in the center of it all, felt the binding pulse with power. The 3 princesses were not just protecting him because they had to. They were protecting him because they wanted to. Because somewhere along their journey they had stopped being enemies and become something else. More guards arrived, but these wore the golden armor of the Imperial Guard. They quickly surrounded Kel and his accomplices. Ambassador Kel, Elder Zor's voice rang out. The ancient being appeared from a side corridor with the Emperor himself. You are under arrest for conspiracy against the Assembly. Your confession was just recorded by security systems throughout this station. Kel stared in shock. You were listening? We have been listening for weeks, the Emperor said. Ever since Jake Morrison and the princesses sent us their evidence. We needed to identify all the syndicate agents before we could move against them. You were patient enough to reveal yourself at last. Kel lunged forward suddenly, pulling a hidden blade. He was fast, faster than Jake expected. The blade flashed toward Jake's throat, but Princess Lyra was faster. She caught Kel's wrist with one hand while Princess Kale struck him from the side, all 4 arms immobilizing him completely. Princess Mira sent an electric pulse through his nervous system that made him go rigid. The binding may prevent us from straying far from him, Princess Lyra said coldly to Kel. But it does not prevent us from destroying anyone who threatens him. Imperial guards took Kel away. The Emperor looked at Jake and the 3 princesses with an unreadable expression. Come, he said. The assembly is waiting. The grand hall was even more crowded than before. Every seat was filled. Cameras and recording devices from across the galaxy were pointed at the central platform. When Jake walked in with the 3 princesses at his side, a murmur ran through the crowd. They spent 2 hours presenting their evidence. Mira showed communication records and financial transactions. Lyra testified about the minds she had read and the plots she had uncovered. Kale spoke of the battles they had fought and the enemies they had faced together. And Jake tied it all together, explaining how the Syndicate had tried to use the binding as a tool to create chaos. They believed the binding would divide us, Jake said to the assembled beings. They thought we would fight among ourselves and weaken our empires. Instead, it brought us together. We learned that cooperation is stronger than division, that understanding is more powerful than prejudice. He turned to face the 3 princesses directly. When we first met, you mocked my species as primitive. You saw humans as weak and worthless. I will not lie, those words hurt. But I have come to understand where they came from. You each carried your own burdens, your own fears, and insulting others was easier than facing your own doubts. Princess Lyra, Princess Kale, and Princess Mira stood silently, listening. Over these weeks I have seen your true selves, Jake continued. Lyra, you are not just a telepath. You are someone who yearns for genuine connection. Kale, you are not just a warrior. You are someone who carries the weight of her people's honor, and fears she will fail them. Mira, you are not just a scientist. You are someone who wonders if logic alone is enough to understand the universe. He could feel emotions flowing through the binding. Surprise, gratitude, understanding. You have served me well. You have protected me. You have worked with me. You have earned my respect and my forgiveness. Jake took a deep breath. More than that, you have earned my friendship. And so I release you from this binding, not because I must, but because I choose to. You are free. He spoke the words in the primal tongue, the same language that had created the binding. But this time he spoke words of release and blessing. The glowing marks on all their chests flared bright, then dissolved into particles of light that drifted upward and disappeared. The binding was broken. For a moment, the four of them stood there, feeling the absence of the connection that had tied them together for weeks. Jake felt suddenly alone, like a part of himself had been cut away. Then Princess Lyra stepped forward. The binding may be broken, but that does not mean we must part ways. Princess Kale nodded. I have learned from you, human. You fight without hatred. You show mercy without weakness. These are lessons my people need. And I have learned that logic is not enough, Princess Mira added. Friendship, loyalty, and trust,